Well, hey there all, welcome on into VG Emporium, video game music and more. I'm your host Rage Cage, and today I can finally say we made it to Shop Themes 10. Yes sir, 9 whole episodes of nothing but shop themes, with this 10th episode being a focus on a game that is pretty much all shop themes, and that is because the focus of it is managing your own shop, or in this case, a convenience store. And this series, quite conveniently, is called the Conveni, which then some of you may be scratching your head, but in Japan, don't they call convenience stores Konbini? Yes, you are right, but the series is called Conveni because it's convenience store. You just take away the ents, and you're just left with Conveni. There you go. So you could probably imagine my excitement when I discovered there's an entire game series based around, convenience stores and managing them, because they obviously would be a treasure trove of music that matches that particular, kind of sound I was looking for in my shop themes in the earlier episodes. And I can assure you, listeners, that the soundtracks for these games, for the most part, have delivered. So before we dive in, I just want to say that this episode might be more music than talking. Probably mostly be composer information for the ones that I could find composers for, but there's not really much to talk about on these games as far as what's going on there, because if I tell you about one, I pretty much told you about them all, except for maybe slight differences between them, and then of course some of my thoughts on the music itself, though I feel that majority of it speaks for itself. Alright, so getting right into it, the song that opened up the episode was BGM 3 from The Conveni, Anomachi o Dokusen Seo, which from here I'll be referring to simply as The Conveni, composed by Makoto Oka. And this here tune is basically the main theme of the entire series because there's a version of it in each of these games. But yeah, this original version right here, it basically ticks a lot of boxes that were in my Konbini style tunes that I've been looking for. It's just really energetic, kind of cheesy, the kind of tune you can imagine bopping down the aisles of a Natural Lawson, getting yourself a pouch of organic yogurt, maybe, some barley natto, and hey, why not a gigantic Fuji apple? But dang it, I have a craving for Kimo Yakitori, which they don't have there, but I do know there's a stand in a particular Depachika I could find one in, but we're not talking about Depachikas, we're talking about Konbinis, the Conveni. Though the game isn't necessarily focused on shopping, there is shopping happening, but it's mostly a focus on managing your own convenience store. Yes, this is a simulation game where not only are you running a shop, but you start from the very beginning, where you want to put your shop, the layout of it, where you put your shelves, advertisement, what products and what price they're going to be at, and then, of course, once you are finally ready to open, people start coming in, buying your stuff, giving you yen, figuring out what they're buying, stock more of that, and then of course eventually maybe dropping prices, raising prices, put more money into advertising to get more people coming in, possibly move to a new location, open a bigger store, while all having these ridiculously good tunes playing in the background. Which is a good point to bring in the next song, this being BGM 7 from The Conveni, composed by Makoto Oka, and once we get back, I'll give you more information on the game, as well as some interesting things I found about, the composer or composers. It's kind of confusing. Oh yes, that was BGM 7 from the Conveni composed by Makoto Oka, and this is definitely something I can imagine rocking out to while eating a salmon roe nigiri while washing it down with a sparkling yuzu seltzer. Though I would not recommend a 7-Eleven salmon roe onigiri being the first thing you eat after an 8-hour flight and then walking around, Shibuya and Roppongi for, a few hours into the wee hours of the morning. Definitely not the best feeling. But getting back to the Conveni, it was originally released in 1997 on both the Sony PlayStation and the Sega Saturn. It was co-developed by Masterpiece Co. and Access Co. and then co-published by Hamster Corporation and Human Entertainment. And I'll maybe get into a little bit about these guys later. But again, the music was composed by Makoto Oka, which I was only able to find a couple credits for them, being The Conveni and then the next game, The Conveni 2, which again, they are credited as music and sound effects for the original version of this game. So that brings us to an interesting thing, because on Moby Games, they list the original version staff, which Makoto Oka is part of, but then there is the Conveni staff, which then shows music being done by Cube, which is a music production company that does largely music for video games. And one of the bigger names that's part of this group is Noriyuki Iwadare, though he is not part of the group that worked on the Conveni. My only guess is that maybe they were involved with some re-releases, because there's also versions of this on the PSP, PS3, and PS Vita. Possibly. And let's see, is there anything else I want to mention? There was a special version released just a year later, and it is called the Conveni Special, Thrisu no Sekai o Dokusen Seo, which adds all kinds of new things, such as new items you can stock, different furniture you can have in the store, like shelves, units, and stuff, as well as, different worlds that you can have your store in, like one where it's nothing but cat people, or a fantasy setting, which I guess has RPG elements in it. Which, hey, if you ever wondered what kind of things cat people would want to buy at a Conveni, they probably really go for that salmon roll nigiri. No thank you, I'll stick with my kabocha squash slices, cooked to perfection, wrapped in plastic in a little styrofoam tray. But hey, little advice, if you're in Miyajima, don't let the deer see it, man. They'll lunge at you for it. How do I know this? Well, hey, look at this. We got our next track coming up here. It's BGM 3, yes, another BGM 3, from The Conveni 2, Senkoku Chain Tenkaida. Again, composed by Makoto Oka, and this has got to be one of my favorites. BGM 3 from the Conveni 2, composed by Makoto Oka. And I'm calling it right now, this is basically the best song of the episode. It's definitely going to be making it into my best of this year. I mean, this one has a lot going on here, and it has like that very particular PS1 sound that I really like that would really fit in with that PS1 and Chill episode I did a couple back. All throughout, just has this really snazzy R&B sound, and then the cherry on top being that Beyond the Mind's Eye John Hammer style synth guitar solo at the end. And sure, this may not exactly be that Conveni sound that I'm talking about or looking for, but it'd be kind of hard if I could own a convenience store to not blast this 24/7 on the speakers. But hey, I do own a shop, a BGM shop, and if I had my way, I'd probably just be playing this song every single episode. Just, talk about something, and then, oh, hey, next song, BGM 3 from the Conveni 2, and then something. Oh, up next, we got BGM 3 from the Conveni 2. Enjoy. But unfortunately, Martyrus already beat me to that joke with one of his April Fool's episodes, so shucks. So the Conveni 2, as far as I can find, is essentially the same as the Conveni, but with more items, more different kinds of displays, new places you can have your shop, and the sizes and such. The main difference being that the original had a top-down view, whereas the Conveni 2 takes on an isometric view, but still in 2D. And of course, a totally new soundtrack with maybe a couple songs carried over from the first game, but none of them actually match the sound of BGM 3. Like, this is just like an outlier, which definitely makes it all the more special. But yeah, the rest of the soundtrack, for the most part, is that cheesy sound you would expect to hear in a Conveni, which this next song is very cheesy. This is BGM 6 from the Conveni 2, composed by Makoto Oka. that was BGM 6 from the Conveni 2, composed by Makoto Oka. Though I'll note here that this is that same kind of confusing situation as the first Conveni, where, Makoto Oka is listed as music and sound effects for the original version, but then there's another, the Conveni 2 staff with the, Cube sound team listed, but specifically Hiroaki Shibata I've seen, linked to the soundtrack, so I'm not quite sure, who actually did the music for this. Could it be Makoto? Could it be Hiroaki? Not quite sure, but going off the way how this kind of sounds like it possibly could belong in Lunar, which was done by the Cube sound team, most specifically Noriyuki Iwadare. But, yeah, this could be Hiroaki. So this very well could be Hiroaki Shibata, and Makoto Oka could be listed in the, the original version because of the music from the first Conveni being arranged in this version as well. I don't know. But, while we're here, I'll tell you what Hiroaki Shibata has done. He only has a few credits, and most of them done under Cube. So starting in 1996, there's Longgressor 3, then Assault Suit Linos 2 in 97, Kaito Saint Tail in 97, Kawa no Nushi Suri Hikyo o Motomete, then Kisha de Go in 2000, and then he had a support credit for Tokimeki Memorial Tyson Puzzle Drama in 96, and production as coordination manager on Shimagami Tensei Devil Children, Kuro no Sho, and Aka no Sho. Alright, time to get into the next song, that being Menu from The Conveni 3, composed by Tenpei Sato. and that was Menu from the Conveni 3, composed by Tenpei Sato. And this here definitely sounds like an opening to a very cheesy late 80s, early 90s comedy movie. Like, you know, with bustling city, all like the montage of stuff going on. And actually, it kind of reminds me of the opening from Short Circuit 2, which in hindsight, without my, nostalgia goggles on, it's not that great of a movie. It had some moments in it, but I would just say stick with the first Short Circuit. That one is definitely a better movie, fun watch. Though I would say check out the opening song for Short Circuit 2 because that there is some gold. But enough about these silly movies about a sentient robot. Time to get back to the Conveni. The Conveni 3, released on the PlayStation 2 in 2003, which is a 5-year gap from the special edition of the Conveni, but this time around it was solely developed by Masterpiece and published by Hamster. And the visuals here this time are a mix of 3D and 2D. And the 3D comes into play when you go into this certain mode, like first-person mode, where you're actually looking inside the store and watching people walk around and buy stuff. And I don't know if you're actually interacting with them or what, but yeah, it's really interesting looking. All the characters are really like these little cheapy 3D guys. Other than that, though, this is pretty much the same as the other two games. You choose a map, find the place where you want to put your store, you build your store out, people come in, buy stuff, and then you can build up a bigger store and eventually even get more stores, and you can manage multiple at once. But the really cool thing is that it actually has a license with Lawson, which is a huge chain of convenience stores in Japan. So if you ever had the dream of managing your own Lawson Conveni, then here it is. The Conveni 3 is the game for you. And if you truly want to live this dream, then you have quite a few ways to play this game. There's the original PS2 version, there was a re-release for the PS3, and there was a Windows release, which you can currently find on myabandonware.com, which that little tidbit has a tangent that will be springing from it, but that is more relevant for the next game in this series. But for now, we're going to get into Tenpei Sato, who is most well known for his work on the Disgaea series, and his unique composition style and sound design, which you can definitely hear in this song. But he has many years of experience behind him, because before he did Disgaea 15 years earlier, his first title, 1988, was XZR, Hakai no Guzo, and this was for the MSX. And then going down the list, we got Deathbringer on the PC-98 and X68K, all the computer versions of Valis 2 in 1991, and the same thing for Emerald Dragon in 92. Alien vs. Predator on the SNES, which is definitely not a port of the arcade game of the same name. And then jumping ahead of it, we got Bible Master 2, The Chaos of Aglia, Rhapsody, A Musical Adventure, and Rhapsody 2, Ballad of the Little Princess. And then jumping more ahead, we got Lepusel Tactics, and then this brings us to 2003 with Disgaea, Hour of Darkness. Prinny, Can I Really Be the Hero? I mentioned earlier, but he did work on other games. In between these times, we got Phantom Brave, Soul Nomad and the World Eaters, Mugen Souls, The Witch and the 100 Knights, Trillion, God of Destruction, May Q, Labyrinth of Death, Labyrinth of Refrain, Coven of Dusk, and then his latest credit being Rhapsody, Marl Kingdom Chronicles in 2023. And that's that. And so here is where I would probably be playing you the second song from this game, but I'm going to save that for later because it's, kind of relevant to one of the other games that are in the series. So for now, I'm going to give you a case of deja vu here because I got another menu theme. This coming from the Conveni 4, and as of this recording, composer unknown. was menu theme from the Conveni 4, composer unknown. And you know that little tangent I referred to when I was talking about the Windows version of the Conveni 3? Well, the Conveni 4 also got a Windows version, which is also on myabandonware.com. So here we go. When I was initially putting this episode together, I was looking for all the information I could find about the Conveni series, and I happened upon there's a Conveni 4. That wasn't on, the soundtrack wasn't uploaded on Keiei Insider at the time. So I went to look on YouTube, and all I could find was maybe a short playthrough, and then multiple videos of this one song uploaded by KVGM, The Last Wave, which is a fantastic VGM podcast. If you haven't listened to it yet, you got to do yourself a favor and do so, because Hammock, he puts on a smooth show. But yeah, he had Map uploaded, and that's because he had featured it on his show at one point. So I was feeling like I didn't want to double dip, because this was already featured on another VGM podcast that focused on obscure VGMs. So I was like, okay, let's see if I could find the soundtrack someplace else or something. So I did all the searches, and then I found myabandonware.com, finding the Windows version, which is a .image file. So I downloaded that, and I was thinking maybe I could find a way to get into this and find the audio. So initially I tried to dive in there with the 7-zip, because I've done this before with other ISOs and image files, but it didn't work. So I tried, mounting it as a virtual disk, but for some reason, it just wouldn't take. It just kept giving me an error and saying that it was corrupted. And I guess this is some kind of weird thing with Windows 10 or something. And I didn't want to go into getting all kinds of weird esoteric software that could potentially, do some weird stuff to my PC. So I just threw up my hands. It was like, all right, Map it is. And so when I was getting ready to start recording this episode, that would be Monday, July 29th. I was doing another search for the Conveni 4 to see if I can find more gameplay footage, and one of the first things that comes up was a playlist of all the music from the Conveni 4. So yeah, I immediately click on it, and yeah, 14 songs, and there is that theme that Hammock had uploaded originally as Map, which is World Theme 1, and so I immediately go to Keiei Insider, and there it is, uploaded among all the other Conveni games. So, and who do we have to thank for this? That would be JetWolf EX, which their YouTube channel is focused on sharing obscure video game soundtracks, and there's a lot of good ones in there. And so I immediately went to the comments and said, basically just thanked them for uploading this, and that they would definitely be getting a shout out on this episode, which again, JetWolf EX on YouTube. But they immediately responded saying I only needed to hear a few seconds of the menu music and one gameplay video that I could find before knowing that I had to buy a copy of this to upload these tracks. It was worth spending the time and money just to record these. People like yourself appreciating the soundtrack makes it all worth it. And that is just awesome, the fact that they bought a physical copy of this game in order to get in there, and I'm not sure if they actually recorded the music and while the game was playing, or if they actually got into the disc itself and ripped the music data. But still, just the fact that they did this just shows the love for VGM is very strong. So a big thank you again to JetWolf EX for, again, making this soundtrack available to listen to. And, check out their YouTube channel. I will be linking it in the show notes. But, if you want to search for it on YouTube, it's just JetWolf, capital EX. Now, before I tell you what I know about this game, we're going to get into the next track here. This is World Theme 5 from the Conveni 4, composer unknown. that was World Theme 5 from the Conveni 4, composer unknown. And this song really, sounds a lot like the music that you would usually hear in a Conveni or a Super Makoto. Not exactly that sound that I'm chasing, that I remember hearing like every once in a while in these places. I still have a really hard time like explaining what it is. It's just really nebulous. But yeah, this song here, still good listening. And with this game, same mechanics, but more built on. And it looks like there's actually a story going on here, now with the added challenge of having to compete with rival stores, which funnily enough are called Enemy Mart, which definitely adds another layer of immersion for, a simulation of running your own convenience store. Visually, it's a little better than what's in Conveni 3, but now the map, instead of being 2D, is fully 3D. So yeah, a great way to look at this is an ultimate culmination of everything that has come before, which unfortunately cannot be said for the next game in the series, which is a few steps back, and not exactly up to the same level of music. But, here we go. This is BGM 2 from the Conveni 20OX, composer unknown. that was BGM 2 from the Conveni 20OX, released in 2006 on the Xbox 360. And one would think that, with the Conveni 4 being released that same year on the PS2, that this would be some kind of maybe like port of it to the 360, but no, this is like its own original thing, but it's very stripped down compared to the last 3 games. Maybe even compared to the first game, because visually it's very weird. Like, instead of like that top down of the first game, it tries to go for like that isometric view that started in the second game, but everything is flat and all the characters that are walking around are just not very appealing looking. There's not really anything appealing from what I've seen about the screenshots or the gameplay footage. And then when I mentioned about the music not being, as good, well, maybe not. That's a little harsh, but still, there's only like 2 songs in the entire game. One for the title screen, and then one that just plays throughout the entire game. Technically 4, but those are just shortened versions of these 2 songs for movies. And so BGM 1, if you've ever seen the What a Cartoon series and you're familiar with Shake and Flick, Raw Deal in Rome, it basically sounds like the music in that. It's really weird. And then this song, BGM 2, I can kind of see, being Conveni music. It's just really just kind of, that loungy music sound. I don't know. It's just a little bit of a letdown compared to the music from the previous 4 games. But I got just a fix for that with BGM 3 from the Conveni DS, Otona no Keiei Ryoku Training. And this is an arrangement of BGM 5 from the Conveni, originally composed by Makoto Oka, arranger unknown. and that was BGM 3 from the Conveni DS, and this is an arranged version of what I know as BGM 5 from the Conveni, originally composed by Makoto Oka, arranger unknown. And I'm honestly hard-pressed to say which version I prefer. And I can kind of say the same for a couple of the other arrangements that are in the soundtrack, because it is made up of arrangements from the Convenis 1, 2, and 3, as well as some original songs, though I will say here that its arrangement of BGM 3 from the Conveni 2, it's still good, it just can't compare to the original. No sir. But yeah, that aside, the majority of the soundtrack sounds really good, like the samples they went with are really nice. That bass, gotta love that bass. And then that lead sound, just doing that fun little glide, that every single note, just real fun times. And when the DS sounds good, it sounds good. Now, from some of the screenshots I've seen and the gameplay footage, it looks like it's about the same as the Conveni 2. Maybe it might have some of the mechanics of like the Conveni 3, maybe even the Conveni 4, but visually, Conveni 2, like the way how it's all like isometric and all 2D. And that's all I really got for you on this one. So we're gonna get into a track from the last game in this series, though, instead of being an entirely new game, it is a port, I think. The track is called Drumn from the Conveni Portable, released on the PSP in 2010. And now here's a little clue for you, composed by Tenpei Sato. Ooh, what does that mean? And that was Drumn from the Conveni Portable, composed by Tenpei Sato. And here's the thing, the entire soundtrack for this game is exactly the same as the Conveni 3. And after looking at some screenshots that I could find, I couldn't find any gameplay footage, this looks like it's basically a port of the Conveni 3, which, again, that was released in 2003. The Conveni Portable was released in 2010, so why, this big gap, like when they already had Conveni 4 just 4 years prior to the portable version? I think a large part of that is because with the Conveni 3, it had some 3D elements, but it was still largely 2D, so probably made it easier to port to the PSP's hardware as opposed to the Conveni 4. That's my guess. So yeah, again, essentially this is the Conveni 3, so everything going on there, just like, being able to manage a license, that amazing dream. And hey, more Tenpei Sato. And I went with this track because it is very different compared to the rest of the soundtrack, as well as the other soundtracks of the other games. You know, it's just this really chill, jazzy drum and bass, jazz and bass, and you can't deny that glitched out sax is really cool. Though this is definitely something that would, fit more in like a lounge or a bar. Doesn't really give like, Conveni vibes, but still, it'd be really cool to hear this in a shop, yeah? Speaking of, that's all I got to play for you in my shop today regarding shop themes from a game series that is all about owning and running a shop. Multiple shops, in fact. Though there's one little thread I still need to tie up here, and I mentioned that there were technically 8 games in the series. With the portable version, that being a port of the 3rd game, that, it's technically 8, but still it's the same game. And then there's one more that I found called Conveni Dream, which after looking more into it, I don't think it's part of this series because it's made by totally different developer and different publisher, and it doesn't have the Conveni thing in there, and it's also more, I don't know, doesn't fit the entire vibe. It looks more along the lines of Cooking Mama, but running a shop, as opposed to the Conveni's SimCity version of running a shop. So yeah, there's that, figured it out. Case closed, only 6 games in the Conveni series, and that's that. And so now I'd like to thank you all for coming in to the shop and helping me celebrate the 10th episode of Shop Themes in this very interesting way. And I guarantee you, though, that I have many, many more shop themes in stock. So there's going to be a Shop Themes 11, 12, 13, and hopefully all the way up to 20. Shop Themes 30, 40, 50. Who knows, even Shop Themes 100. Are there that many shop themes out there? Well, there's only one way to find out now, isn't there? And if you'd like to go on this journey and find out if there's that many shop themes out there with me, then why don't you, give VG Emporium a follow on your favorite podcatcher, such as Spotify, Apple Music, iHeartRadio, and many others that I am not aware of that just pull from those sources. And there's also YouTube and TerraPlayer, which is a hub for all kinds of video game related podcasts. And then of course there is the main website, vgemporium.wordpress.com. And then if you have any feedback, suggestions, or a shop theme that you happen to come across that maybe I don't know about, then you can send it on over to vgemporium@gmail.com or join the Discord and drop it off there, as well as leave a special order, which is a song request, which once I get enough, I'll do its own dedicated episode, which we've already gone past 10 of those episodes. So, keep them coming. Now, as far as what I have going on for next week, I have a couple ideas that I'm playing with. They're just up in the air, and we'll see which one happens to land first. So now I have one last song here that I'm going to play the show out with. And this song is fitting because it is an arrangement of BGM 3 from the Conveni, which, I consider the main theme of the Conveni series. And it's simply called End from the Conveni 3, composed by Tenpei Sato. And there is no denying that this song is very Tenpei Sato. You'll hear what I mean. And once more, thank you all for coming into VG Emporium, video game music, and more.